Hey guys, Indy here. This is going to be a quick guide going over the changes regarding mana regeneration for all of the healing classes in Warlords of Draenor. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. The first class I'm going to be covering is going to be Holy Paladins. Before Warlords of Draenor, Paladins had an ability called Divine Plea, which would, on use, replenish mana. This ability has been removed, and to compensate for its removal, Blizzard has said that they have tailored Paladins' mana costs so that with Spirit, mana will no longer be an issue. Hey, psst, I just wanted to talk to you guys in the corner over here. Blizzard has removed Divine Plea, however, Paladins do have other ways to deal with our mana. There are a few glyphs that we can use that will either reduce mana costs or help us regenerate some mana. So let's go over that. There are two major glyphs that can actually help you reduce mana costs and replenish mana as Holy Paladins. The first one is Divine Wrath. Divine Wrath reduces all mana costs while the Wings is active by 25%, however it does cut the healing of Avenging Wrath down to half. By itself, it increases healing by 100%. However, with the glyph, it's about 50%. But you do get a mana break. So let's throw that in and test it out. You see the crit, haste, and damage remains unchanged, however the healing increase is only 50%. The other glyph that will actually help you regenerate some mana, unfortunately cannot be used in arenas or RBGs. However, it can be used in World PvP, Ashran, and in raiding. All it does is increase the cooldown of Lay on Hands by 2 minutes, but when you use Lay on Hands, you regain 10% of your mana. So as you can see, Lay on Hands is now a 12-minute cooldown, but you do regain about 10% of your mana. And that about covers mana regeneration for Holy Paladins and Warlords of Draenor. I think it's time to move on. The next class to be covered is Restoration Shamans. They used to have a totem called Mana Tide Totem, which would increase mana regeneration. This has been removed. The glyph of Totemic Recall has also been nerfed to a 25% refund of mana. There are still some other ways to regenerate mana as a shaman. A less favorable way to regen some mana would be to take a different talent. At level 90, instead of taking Unleashed Fury, you may take Elemental Blast due to the fact that on use, it increases your spirit by 1000 for 8 seconds. And on a 12-second cooldown, that leaves about 4 seconds of downtime if you use it off cooldown. Restoration Shamans still have the ability Water Shield, and therefore should keep it up as much as possible. Unfortunately, the mana on hit is only procced from melee strikes now. However, the effect can be strengthened with the glyph of Water Shield. It actually increases the mana gain from when you're struck by 50%, however it does nerf the passive mana regeneration by about 15%. You should only take this glyph if you're able to handle being trained without Earth Shield up all the time. In addition to these two ways to regenerate mana, you also have a passive ability called Resurgence. Resurgence makes it so that your critical strike heals refund a percentage of mana based on which heal you used. And that about wraps up mana regeneration for Restoration Shamans and Warlords of Draenor thus far. It's time to move on. Next up is the cliché healer, Priests. I'm going to cover both Holy and Discipline specs at the same time due to the fact that they share talent trees, so they do share ways of regenerating mana. Hymn of Hope has been removed from the game, however there's no need to worry because Priests have plenty of ways of getting mana back depending on your playstyle. At level 45, you can choose between 3 talents that all help you either regenerate mana or conserve mana. Surge of Light is a talent that makes it so you can instant cast a free flash heal when the talent procs. Mindbender is essentially an improved Shadow Fiend that not only deals damage, but also regenerates mana per hit. The final level 45 mana regeneration talent is Power Word Solace. Power Word Solace replaces Holy Fire and regenerates your mana by 2%. One final thing that you can do as a healing priest in Warlords to help your mana management is definitely by taking the Power Infusion talent at level 75. Not only does this reduce the mana cost of all abilities by 20%, it's also a great 2-minute cooldown that increases your haste by 25%. That about sums up the tactics and abilities for managing and restoring your mana as a priest in Warlords. Time to move on to the remaining classes. The next covered class is Restoration Druids. Innervate, an ability which can be cast on the Druid or others to replenish mana, has been removed. Druids have a passive called Omen of Clarity. This ability makes it so that Life Bloom ticks give you a 4% chance to give you clear casting. This makes your next regrowth free from any mana cost. Furthermore, at level 100, you can talent into Moment of Clarity, which makes the clear casting last for 5 seconds instead of just 1 regrowth. There is also a glyph which may aid your mana consumption as a Resto Druid. The glyph of Master Shapeshifter takes the mana cost of shapeshifting down by 100%, thus making shapeshifting a free, no-cost mechanic. This is a really good glyph because of the fact that Druids shapeshift to not only get out of roots, but also to immune themselves to polymorph effects. And with us having covered the mana regeneration of Resto Druids, I believe it's time to move on to the last healer. The final healer class to cover is Mistweaver Monks. With Warlords being their second expansion in existence, Mistweaver Monks are still relatively new to the game. They, unlike the other healers, have kept their mana regen ability, Mana Tea. You gain 1 stack of Mana Tea for every 4 chi you spend as a monk. You consume 1 stack per 0.5 seconds to restore 4% mana. Mana Tea can stack up to 20. Mana Tea can be affected by a couple of glyphs. These glyphs can stack with each other if you wish, because they are not exclusive with each other. The first glyph is Mana Tea. This glyph makes it so that Mana Tea can be instant instead of channeled, and consumes 2 stacks, but it does give it a 10-second cooldown. And the second of these talents is Renewed Tea. And what the glyph of Renewed Tea does is, it makes it so that when you're hot, Renewing Mist is dispelled, you actually gain a charge of Mana Tea. As for the talents, the level 45 tier has 2 talents that can aid in mana consumption. Ascension, being the first, increases your maximum mana pool by 20% and increases your maximum chi by 1. The second of these is Chi Brew, which instantly restores 2 chi, generates 1 stack of Mana Tea, and has a maximum of 2 charges with a 1-minute recharge. And that just about covers everything that monks have in their arsenal to regenerate mana. Alright guys, so to recap, we went over all the changes that Warlords of Draenor brought to mana for healers. Concerning mana cooldowns, we covered the removal of Divine Plea from Paladins, the removal of Mana Tide from Shamans, the removal of Hymn of Hope from Priests, the removal of Innervate from Druids, and the persistence of Mana Tea for monks into the expansion. Blizzard has stated that they have tuned mana costs to fit the new mana situation for each healer. However, there are still many ways to regen mana through glyphs, passives, talents, and buffs. The ways to regenerate mana that we have gone over in this video have been, for the Paladin, Glyph of Divine Wrath and Glyph of Divinity. For the Shaman, we went over the Elemental Blast talent, the glyphs of Water Shield or Totemic Restoration, and the Resurgence passive. For Priests, we went over the choice of talents between Surge of Light, Mindbender, or Power Word Solace, as well as the talent Power Infusion. For Druids, we went over Omen of Clarity's passive, the Moment of Clarity talent, and Master Shapeshifter glyph. For the Monks, we went over Mana Tea, the glyphs of Mana Tea and Renewed Tea, the talent of Ascension, and the talent of Chi Brew. It's also worth mentioning that these methods and tactics to regen and conserve your mana are simply just each class's capability to do so. They don't appear to be part of any meta build as of yet. It's up to you guys to decide which tactic of mana conservation and regeneration you wish to use for your own situations. If you're in a raid group, if you're arenaing, RBGing, or world PvPing, you may have different necessities for mana regeneration than in other situations. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this guide has helped you guys notice some other ways you can use to regen your mana, just in case you guys need it while PvPing or raiding. If this video has helped you, please drop a like and leave some feedback. As always, Indy here. Thanks for watching.